Six Music live at Manchester International Festival.
This Friday from 10:30
on BBC Radio.
Six Music.
This is the Freak Zone on BBC Six Music. The wonderful These New Puritans are going to unveil a specially devised set of reimagined pieces from David Lynch films next week at the Manchester International Festival. That was more than reason enough for me to speak to Jack Barnett recently.
This is the keyboard that all the major themes were created for Twin Peaks. And David would sit right over here, right to the right of me, and we would put a little cassette just about over here on this keyboard, just keep it in record and just keep it playing. David would sit here and I'd say, well, what do you see, David? Just talk to me. And David would say, okay, Angelo, we're in a dark woods now, and there's a soft wind blowing through some sycamore trees, and you can hear the hoot of an owl, and you're in the dark woods.
We were invited to do a piece or a concert inspired by David Lynch. So that was as far as the brief went. But so we're doing a sort of mixture of music of ours, sort of in dialogue with the music from the films of David Lynch, a mixture of sort of Badalamenti stuff and just other music in those soundtracks.
Were you familiar with the works of David Lynch before this?
Oh yeah. It's like part of our sort of inheritance music. It feels like, because we have an older brother who was obsessed with it. The story is that our mum, who's a bit away with the fairies, thought it was some like kind of Miss Marple thing. And so Tom, our older brother, saw the advert and said, "Oh, Mum, can I watch this?" And so she said, "Oh, yeah, whatever." It's like Poirot type of thing. And so he watched it and then became obsessed with it. And he used to make magazines about it that he used to sell at the pub. And our dad used to sell them to his friends at the pub. So me and George used to sort of be behind the door watching with our hands over our eyes as quite young kids, and I think it made some kind of impression on us, on our imaginations from quite a young age.
This is Twin Peaks now we're talking about, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So thinking it was some sort of cosy Sunday afternoon Midsummer Murders. Yeah, your mum you watch. Wow, that's got to be a shaping influence, watching Twin Peaks as a small child, hasn't it?
Well, I think so, and then it became a kind of a ritual to re-watch it endlessly on very badly degrading VHS tapes as we were growing up.
At the risk of trying to crowbar a link where none may exist, do you think there's anything in the Lynchian view of the world or art or what he's about that's similar to the Barnett and These New Puritans view of the world, or what you want to achieve through art?
I think the thing that resonates with me is that idea of the absolute strangeness of the world, and that normal life and normality is a kind of veneer, and that beneath that there's a lot of interesting things going on, a lot of strange things going on. And I don't believe in such a thing as a normal person. I just don't think that thing exists. And the more you analyse the so-called normal person or everyday life, the stranger it becomes.
Yeah, normality is a very elaborate construct in a lot of ways, isn't it? Yeah. It's a bit like when M.R. James said in about his ghost stories that he wanted there was something going on at the corner of the eye. There's something glimpsed behind the everyday that's not quite right. Yeah.
It's true, and I think also that construct of normality is a thing that only really exists in big cities or capital cities. The further you go away, like we recorded our last album a lot of it in Berlin, and our studio was right out in the outskirts, and every day I'd cycle through the kind of industrial outskirts and past cement factories and coal power stations, and you just always you never fail to see something that would inspire you or just would be strange and would give you a different momentum and a different take on whatever it is you're trying to do in that day.
Of course, what I'm going to say about that is immediately that makes me think that scenario of Eraserhead. That's a very, because I remember when I first, as being that kind of teenager, as you said, my mate said, "You've got to watch this," and he was obsessed with the idea that, living in a place where there was a low, undefined humming sound that went on continually in life.
I lived Eraserhead for about 2 years actually when I lived in Berlin, because it was like kind of this wind tunnel. Yeah, it's extremely long road. It must have been about 10 miles long. It goes out towards the east, and it's just massive like wind, sleet, rain, all these chemicals whipping up in your face as you go along.
Yeah.
And strange characters and all kinds of odd people that you,
And of course now there's a word for it, Lynchian, isn't there? There is a word for that kind of strange view of the world. So you were given absolute carte blanche. You weren't really steered in any way. You were just asked, will you do something that involves your music and David Lynch's imagery?
Yeah, exactly. So then when they said that, it occurred to us. I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the band actually, Hans Henning Korb, from another person from Berlin.
Yeah.
And he was saying, there's this similarity in these certain kind of imagery that is in common. These things like fire, dreams, trees. So it's like, we could make some kind of little dialogue where we kind of swap themes between his music and our music.
These new Puritans music, which I've been a fan of right from the word go, but has gone through, I don't know if you think it's in different incarnations or if it's an evolutionary process, but certainly, I mean, will it be a definably These New Puritans thing, or is there any such thing as a hey, that's a These New Puritans track? Do you think there's any such thing?
Well, yeah, it's funny because there are these big changes in sound.
Yeah.
And on the face of it, you could say, there's this very quiet, almost classical piece, and then there's a piece with massive percussion with 100 tracks of drums. But actually, I do feel like you can kind of say, that's a These New Puritans song. I don't quite know what that thing is, but it's there somehow. I hope so anyway.
There is a certain quality to the music, and I can't think what it is either. There's a certain, and this has become a much devalued word because of financial things, austerity. There's a certain austere quality to it, I think. Do you know what I mean?
It's not sort of cozy, feel good, song of the summer kind of thing.
That's right.
But I mean, I know what you mean. It's not abstract music. It's quite sharp music, and I like that. I always like music. I always like stuff that cuts you and gets to your nervous system and isn't kind of just something that floats by in the background.
What's David's involvement, or is he not involved at all?
I don't know exactly. I haven't had any direct involvement with him. I think he's definitely got sort of overall control of what is allowed in and what's kept out, kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. But he's not sent you any notes saying on no condition can you use this bit of whatever Mulholland Drive. No. Fascinating stuff. Tell me then generally about these New Puritans get up in the moment. I mean, I thought it had contracted to just you and George, but you've just told me that it's not. That's not the case.
Well, for this, I mean, it's constantly contracting, expanding.
Right.
As you probably know, we've done gigs with 2 people, we've done gigs with 60 people.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we've got a basic 4-person lineup.
Yeah.
Which is smaller than we've done in the past couple of years, but I really like it. It has a kind of good balance between the brutality element and the kind of stillness element. So there's vibraphones, there's metal percussion, there's a lot of electronic stuff. A mixture of things. And then we're going to have some extra musicians. I think at the moment, it's going to be double bass and saxophone.
Fabulous. Well, I'm very much looking forward to the Manchester International Festival performance, and I'll say more about that in just a little while. But it's always a delight to talk to you, Jack. See you soon.
Absolute pleasure, Stuart. Yeah, thanks for your support.
That's Where the Trees Are on Fire from the latest These New Puritans album, Inside the Rose. Many thanks to Jack. These New Puritans are at Manchester International Festival next Saturday, the 13th of July, from his very candidly titled 26 Mixes for Cash album. This is Aphex Twin.